there is the big Ben Simmons situation going on where a trade looks like it could be imminent. Now, how quickly is that take place? I don't. It's going to be kind of hard. I don't think it happens like draft night, but we'll see. We'll talk a little bit about what they can do to improve their team and kind of where they go as a franchise moving forward. Okay, so Philadelphia, they lose in the second round to the Atlanta Hawks, and just a huge disappointment, given that they were the number one team in the East during the regular season. So, there is some worry. Obviously, I think there's some hesitation about the whole Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid combination. But we also know that the Sixers don't want to lose on a Ben Simmons trade. They don't want to trade Simmons only to have to, basically do it like get a worse player for him. I think the interesting situation for the Sixers is potentially Tobias Harris. Look, Tobias Harris is going to be making, what is that, 70 plus 40. So like he's making over $100 million over the next 3 seasons. So he's getting so much of his salary. His salary is the number one thing on the team, for one. But then also he's not necessarily an all-star. So he's making all-star money. He's not an all-star. I understand his role with the team. I understand that he's valuable, but at what cost is Tobias Harris when you look at other teams in the league like Brooklyn and Milwaukee, especially in the East, that they're using $30 million on each of their 3 best players? Now, yes, these are the 3 best players, but is this 3 better than the 3 of Middleton, Giannis, and Holiday? And that's kind of what what Philadelphia will need to kind of figure out, because Brooklyn and Milwaukee next year are going to be the 2 teams in the East. Can Philadelphia regroup? Can they capitalize on a Simmons trade to be able to do something where they can, get a big haul for Ben Simmons? I don't know if the trade is out there. I don't know. Danny Green is also a unrestricted free agent. I think it would be great for them to bring him back, but I just don't think it's going to happen. He likely could go chase a ring somewhere. Obviously, he won last season in the bubble with the Lakers, so maybe he goes to a different team. George Hill has an unguaranteed contract. Do they want to bring him back? Seth Curry was a bright spot for the Sixers last year, although his defense wasn't great, so you worry a little bit there. Thibault was great. Maxey was solid. Shake Milton was solid once again. And the team is in an interesting spot again. They had to make a decision on Dwight Howard, Furkan Korkmaz. So let's look at the assets for Philadelphia. They actually have their own picks going in the next 3 drafts, the next 4 drafts, if you consider Thursday's draft a part of that. So they have some picks, but can they maneuver their way to be able to upgrade? Because they might have to throw a pick in order to do that too. Because if you could say Ben Simmons in the future first for Philadelphia or from Philadelphia, like that might be relatively enticing. Like, I don't know if teams are lining up just to get Simmons and that's it from the Sixers. Like, obviously relatively his stock is low. I think he can still provide and be a good player for a team, but that will be interesting to see what they could get for him. So let's talk about that. Ben Simmons, there was a story that comes out saying that him and Rich Paul, who's his agent with Clutch Sports, says that him and the Sixers, Ben Simmons and the Sixers are in step, quote unquote, in step with the Sixers in order to trade the 25-year-old to a new team. So this tells us, let's pull it up on Twitter because it was a tweet from Adrian Wojnarowski. This kind of opens up the idea that like Simmons ultimately knows he's going to be traded, but he may have a little bit of a say into where he goes. So yeah, I think the team and, Clutch Sports, Rich Paul understand like Simmons is going to go somewhere where I think it's going to be beneficial for him. He's not just going to go, like people say, oh, Damian Lillard and send him to Portland. Well, I don't know if they're really trying to work with Clutch Sports and Rich Paul on this. Like, I don't know if Portland like is going to work. Maybe he goes to a different market. We'll definitely see. But yeah, an interesting situation, obviously, for the Sixers. It's kind of the story of the offseason for them, as they will need to figure out, is Ben Simmons, what can Ben Simmons be able to get? And kind of go from there. So there's the Sixers were rumored to have asked the Spurs for 4 first-round draft picks, 3 pick swaps, and a young player in exchange for Simmons. So that's probably DeJounte Murray. It's interesting to me, though, that Philadelphia is almost saying, like, in that trade, like, if that's offered from Philadelphia, which, again, things are smoke screens, things are rumors, like, you don't know 100%. But the interesting thing about that trade offer to the San Antonio Spurs is that Philadelphia is essentially saying, like, give us a bunch of picks, but then we're going to move forward with Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris as our main guys. And then, yeah, I guess in that Spurs one, maybe you could say DeJounte Murray. But, like, is that winning the East? I don't think that's winning the East. If this year's iteration of the Sixers couldn't win the East, they couldn't beat the Hawks, they probably don't beat the fully healthy Nets, they are going to be in a battle with the 76ers. Like, what is the move exactly that can push them forward? I don't know if just asking for more picks in the future is the best thing to do. I don't. Matt Moore of the Action Network reported earlier this week the Sixers proposed a framework that included Kyle Lowry via sign and trade, Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby, and the 4th overall pick, which Toronto obviously rejected. Like, look at that. That's like the whole Toronto Raptors team going to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons. If that report is accurate, Philadelphia's asking price remains anywhere near that high. It's probably safe to assume the Raptors will look elsewhere for roster upgrades. Yeah, the Sixers, they are asking a lot, and I understand why. Look, he's a 25-year-old dude who's a great defensive player. Obviously, he struggles with his offensive game in kind of a half-court situation because he can't really create his own shot because he's not shooting confidently. So you worry there a little bit. But ultimately, like, the Sixers are smart to try to maximize from a trade. So named Heat is most likely landing spots. I mentioned this in my Heat stream, the Miami Heat stream that I did for their off-season preview. I don't know how the fit works with Miami. Again, you have Bam, Jimmy, and Simmons, and they all can't really shoot. So, there's a little bit of a lack of shooting. Do you become, you just kind of an eyebrow raiser for sure on that one. Let's see. More Heat talk with Simmons. Ben Simmons this offseason. Portland again. I don't know if they're really working with Rich Paul and Ben Simmons on this. Like, I feel like he won't go to some just bad team and be like the one good guy on a really bad team. He won't be going to Portland with like CJ McCollum and be in the West. I think he'll land somewhere interesting. So yeah, for sure. Okay, so that is all for my Philadelphia 76ers stream. Again, here's the look at the cap sheet. Does Dwight want to stay? Could he get money elsewhere? Does Danny Green want to stay? Could he get money elsewhere? It'll be interesting to see what happens. Joel Embiid we're going to start hearing talks of an extension. Now, while I don't believe his extension can take place, we're going to hear about it. If there's any pushback, like Embiid's like, I don't know about Philadelphia anymore, that would be huge. And everybody's moving teams. Like, if Ben Simmons moving teams, we have all the best players in the league. They're switching teams. So would it be out of question to think that Joel Embiid would? I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll definitely see. That's it for our Sixers stream. Last 2 streams of the night, we're going to the Utah Jazz, talking about them. And then we're talking about the Phoenix Suns, the Western Conference champions. So join us. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, comment, like the video, all those fun things. We got 2 more videos to do, and then we will have all 30 teams and all of their off-season previews. Feel free to go pick and choose which you would like to watch. We're on to the Utah Jazz upcoming here in just a moment.